Tanner gets drop-kicked in the middle of giving his lecture and flies into his chalkboard. He was lecturing on the evils of the oppressive patriarchy when Andrew Tate broke in to stop the indoctrination of the open-minded youth. To keep the students in line, Tanner frequently reminded them of their soul-crushing student loans and explained how they might as well just stick around rather than getting a derogatory mark on their transcripts, which could impact future employment. But Tate wasn't about to let the future generation get destroyed, so he invited them all to join Hustlers University, where he learned to be a top G instead of a soy boy bitch. When I first started elementary school, I actually cried for months on end because I hated it so goddamn much. You know, I cried like a little bitch, but I can't really blame myself because, you know, I was just being forced to sit in a chair and listen to a teacher lecture for like 8 hours a day for years on end. And then I'll be graded on my conformity to the system with the threat of bad grades, detention, or even being held back. But when you understand the masculine essence, you realize that it's all about penetrating life.
In this league, if there's a hole, no matter how small, you got to be able to get through it. Check this out. Yeah!
You know what I'm saying? It's about going after what you want in life, you know, having that faith and courage within yourself, not being afraid to make mistakes and realizing that mistakes are, you know, an important part of the learning process. And ultimately, you know, this is all to become the leader of your own life. So of course, I wanted some hands-on action instead of just being forced to be quiet while I was being lectured to. But the thing that I wanted the most was, you know, the freedom to explore the world and to form my own conclusions instead of just reading what life was supposedly like out of a textbook. Unfortunately though, there wasn't much that I could do because I was still plugged into the matrix and living in a feminine-centric system that was, you know, designed to suppress my masculine spark.
Soy boys are reproducing. They are creating beta males from left to right, causing the destruction of Western civilization. Needs to be stopped.
But I knew that I couldn't just continue walking through life, you know, sipping on a fucking soy latte, eating a fucking vegan muffin. And, you know, it was time to be a real fucking man, and that's when I started talking to Goggins. Goggins was born outside of the Matrix, and so he was never socialized in a feminine-centric environment like we have today in the Western world. He never had the comfort of modern society, and so the men and women of the tribe had to fulfill their traditional roles for their best chance at survival. The men were highly respected as they would go out and risk their lives hunting to bring back food for the tribe, while the women were loved for taking care of the children and doing what they could to gather nearby plant foods. But one day, while Goggins and his pack were out scavenging for food, they came across a traveler named Andrew. Andrew sat them around the campfire and told them stories about an advanced settlement that was rich with food, land, and resources. He told them about how the land was so plentiful that the men became lazy and weak, and how the women took over the kingdom and seized the power. But because the men became so apathetic and content, the society began to die alongside the masculine spirit. Men refused to work and the women cannot pick up the slack. The birth rate declined to 0, since now the women were more focused on providing rather than nurturing. And over time, the once great society fell into crime and corruption, and then finally collapsed into anarchy and destruction. So this got me thinking, what if Andrew Tate was actually right? You know, like, what if this female empowerment movement really is a sign of the degradation of society?
You ass in that house.
As Andrew says, there's never been a successful matriarchy in the history of human evolution. And so it's like, what the fuck are the odds of one being successful now when we literally have the power to annihilate the entire human species? I've realized that in a society, either men can hold the majority of the power or women can, but as soon as women gain the majority of the power, the society begins to die and collapse because men have always been the backbone of every single society that has ever existed in the history of human evolution. And so, you know, when men become weak, the family takes a hit. When the family takes a hit, the community suffers. When the community suffers, the nation eventually fails if, you know, this pandemic of cowardice and feminization is not stopped in its tracks. And so this is probably a big reason why Andrew Tate was banned, because he exposed the truth that feminism ultimately sells a pipe dream. But the funny thing is for all the hate that feminism espouses towards men, it literally cannot exist without us, because men have created a society that values freedom of speech to the point where we allow these ideas to freely be expressed. But these same ideas expressed in, you know, a less tolerant country would be cause for execution.
Well, in what sense is our society male-dominated? The fact that the vast majority of wealth is owned by men, the vast majority of capital is owned by men. Women do more unpaid labour.
Very tiny proportion of men, and a huge proportion of people who are seriously disaffected are men. Most people in prison are men. Most people who are on the street are men. Most victims of violent crime are men. Most people who commit suicide are men. Most people who die in wars are men. People who do worse in school are men. It's like, where's the dominance here precisely? What you're doing is you're taking a tiny substrata of hyper-successful men and using that to represent the entire structure of Western society. There's nothing about that that's vaguely appropriate.
Alright guys, so I hope you liked that video. Drop some comments on your guys' thoughts on the topics discussed in this video. I want to know what you guys have to say. If you're on your own journey of becoming, a more masculine man, check out some of the links I have in the description. There's a whole bunch of guys that are going to help you guys out. And yeah, that's basically it. I'll see you guys in the next video. And as always, keep dreaming while you're awake. Peace.
You ever wonder what it feels like when dreams bleed into real life? Seen scenes from TV get realized. Palm trees, a soft breeze, and chilled ice till tides wash away our problems in the spilled wine.